I've had a back and forth with Cyberpunk 2077. My second video in the current series that you're watching released over 1 year ago. And in that video, I talked about how Cyberpunk had officially failed as a game. Then about 3 months back, I made a video wondering what the fuss was about, since I heard rumblings of it improving. For backstory purposes, please give me a second to explain. I began as a fan of CD Projekt Red after The Witcher 3, and I began to follow their development on Cyberpunk 2077. Leading me to pre-order it for PS4 at the time and began to play it here on the channel. Now I finished it and I did only the main missions and Pan Am side story. I did like the game, but only liked, as there were so many issues surrounding it and so much buzz that I couldn't really enjoy it. Well, I moved on from the game and it left no real impact on me, but I felt a responsibility to learn the game and play it in the correct way. So over the course of 3 weeks, I have put over 50 hours into Cyberpunk. And for reference, it took me 16 hours to complete back in 2020. Getting to the point of the video, now I can say I actually have some solid input or feedback, if you will, since my boy WetPickle998 called me out for being a fraud. Now if you're thinking about getting Cyberpunk 2077 in 2023, I say what are you waiting for? Truly it is a magnificent game, and leaving out all the problems from launch because everyone has covered it extensively, I'd like to say that when playing this for a second time 2 years later, there was so much that I left on the table. So many side missions and side characters that I never met or explored in my first playthrough, but that's only just scratching the surface. The first thing I'd like to touch on is customization and life path. For my first and second playthrough, I went with a corporal life path, as it seems the best and most natural for my progression as V. Not to linger much in the customization, but there is so much to do. You can take your time and make a beautiful, badass, unique looking character with a big one or a little one. Sadly, you never really get to see the character you create, unless you use a mirror, which never really does your character justice in the game. You can also see your character when you're riding a bike or a motorcycle. And the first few hours, I really enjoyed riding my bike, as I felt all the work that I put into my character and dressing him was worth it because I could actually see him when riding the bike. Sadly, that's one thing that even in this playthrough bugged me. And in the sequel to Cyberpunk 2077, we absolutely need to include a third-person mode to make all of the customization you can do worth it. The second thing I noticed in this playthrough was how many different characters or side characters there are, and how you can keep busy and make a lot, and I mean a lot of money, doing jobs and getting street credit with gigs or street cred. Just to name a few of the important people you meet are a cop named River, and you meet a man that's running for mayor, along with meeting a nice bartender girl who loves to race, and even minor characters like a wandering monk. There is so much to discover, and the beauty of it for me was that I never met them before, and I got to experience what essentially was a new game. I got lost doing side missions and gigs, and I can absolutely say that I had the most fun doing them. I didn't even notice how many I'd done until I got a message telling me how I'd reached max street cred. And I made easily over 600,000 eddies in side missions and gigs alone. The money was piling up, my legend status was growing, and I loved becoming the most prestigious and badass merc in all of Night City. And now this brings me to an important and crucial moment. I realized, thinking back to my first playthrough years ago, how I hated, and I mean hated, my corpo car. It looked ugly and it was damn slow. As I progressed, I knew I needed a car that said V. Actually, that screamed V. I needed a car worthy of my status in Night City. Something loud, dark, and different. Here's where the Quandra Type 66 Chulu, what? And I definitely butchered that, came in. It was exactly what I needed. This is where the game started to feel unique to me. I loved that car and used it for the remainder of my journey. Yes, I bought many more afterwards. I had to put the money to good use, but then I went out and looked for apartments. I went with the Glen, a beautiful apartment that felt like home to me. Now, why am I telling you all of this? Because you need to understand this game started to feel like something I hadn't felt in a very long time. Granted, I ended up buying all the properties available. The point was that as I grew with V and he became known, it was only right that it showed in the game. The progression felt so natural. There's so much to do and to discover. And to my man WetPickle998, who said you can tell he never played the game long enough to give us decent input, I'd like to let you know that I completed all side gigs and missions, but enough of that. The third thing I'd like to talk about for this video is main story issues. In my first playthrough, only doing main missions, it took me 16 hours. So I'd say the story takes about that long to complete. Well, in my current and final playthrough, again, I have spent 50 hours in the game. And when I realized that I had to meet Hanako at Embers, my gut reaction was like, what the hell? Already? No, it can't be this short. That's what I was thinking. I think I lost myself in Night City and had so much fun exploring and working that I didn't even realize the main missions were happening, as I did them on my own time and when I felt it was right. By the time I finished the game, everything else was completed. No side gigs, no side missions, everything was done, and the only thing left was to finish the game. And I'll be honest, I was not satisfied. I did, however, enjoy the friendships I made with my man Jackie, Takamura, and Johnny Silver. So I'm not sure. I feel like the main missions weren't as engaging as everything else the world had to offer. And sure, that was a bummer, but many of you may feel different, and the story is good enough to enjoy the game, because trust me, this game has so much more to offer than just its main storyline. A quick point I'd like to make here is on Johnny Silverhand. My relationship with Johnny Silverhand was very good this time around. We became like brothers, so I would say don't neglect him and treat him right and uncover all that he has to offer, even in all his crazy or not so crazy stories, because I think it is damn worth it in the end. Now, the final thing that I'd like to talk about regarding the game is Night City. It is a magnificent world that CD Projekt Red created. Beautiful and amazing does not give it justice. I would drive by and I would see places and buildings I had never seen before. As I have said before, I love the Blade Runner movies, and this game really made me feel like I was living there. The weather conditions especially, and I really love the nighttime, especially when it would rain. And when you were in the city and the sandstorms would hit and everything turned orange and I drove in my powerhouse of a Type 66, holy crap, that was a unique feeling. Although the city is called Night City, it's just as great and amazing during the daytime. Explore every inch of the world, the city, the Badlands, the oil fields, the junkyard. There is so much to explore, so much to find in Night City, and I believe it's probably the best thing that the game has to offer is the city itself. And here I'd like to leave you with my final thoughts. This video is a little bit longer than I expected it to be, but I feel like it was worth everything I needed to say because I owed it to Cyberpunk 2077 and I owed it to CD Projekt Red because of my previous videos and maybe not truly grasping what a game it is. Now I actually am happy and excited for Phantom Liberty. And no, Cyberpunk isn't my favorite game of all time, but it sure is in the top 10. And it has a new place in my heart for one of the best and most unique experiences that I've ever played. I was able to complete all of the endings for the game with my Mel V, and I'm very happy that I did. I really hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you so much. Please sub and like, especially you, my boy, Wet Pickle 998. I will catch you in the next video.